You know, I don't think so. I've got some things I've been wanting to do for a while, and we've been building cars, we've been really busy. There's definitely a different direction I want to go, and here I just can't do both.
Nobody likes Richard, and nobody ever liked him. Those words were said on camera by someone who worked beside Richard Rawlings at Gas Monkey Garage, knowing millions would hear them. He watched Aaron struggle through 14 years of a partnership that fell apart in the public eye. But what was really happening behind those garage doors? And why did the man with the golden hands finally walk away from the show that made him famous? Join us as we find out what really happened between these two men and the empire they built together.
So I'm talking to Daphne about my cars, and in walks Aaron, and I'm like, God, he's back. What'd you do, man?
Well, I basically just worked at the house.
The night Aaron fell asleep. The cameras caught everything during the first season of Fast and Loud back in 2012. Aaron Kaufman sat in a half-built car, tools scattered around him, head tilted against the seat, while his eyes kept drifting shut. Every few seconds he'd force them open, glance at the camera crew like he wasn't fully there, then fade out again. He'd been awake for 38 straight hours, and this was only the start. Out in the shop, Richard Rawlings paced with a phone glued to his ear, chasing another deal and lining up another rust bucket to flip. Discovery wanted 12 builds in 24 weeks. Richard said yes on the spot. Aaron didn't find out until the cameras rolled in. The plan was simple on paper. 3 mechanics, 12 custom builds, 6 months. Every car had to be finished, running, and ready to sell within 2 weeks, even though most shops needed 6 months for one build like that. Aaron lived in Fort Worth, about 45 miles from the Dallas garage. With traffic, the drive took an hour and a half each way. He left home around 5 a.m. and usually got back after midnight. Some nights, he didn't bother going home at all. He'd sleep in a car at the shop and rinse off with a hose out back while the cameras kept rolling. His best friend, Scott McMillan, who'd known Aaron since Crowley High, worked beside him that first season. He watched Aaron grind through 110-hour weeks. He also watched Richard come in, film for a few hours, then disappear. By week 12, McMillan figured Aaron had logged more than 1,300 hours in the shop. Richard? Maybe 200. During one shoot, a director asked Richard how important Aaron was to the operation. Richard laughed and joked about keeping him chained to the shop so nobody could steal him. The crew laughed. Aaron didn't. He was under a car, covered in grease, listening to every word. When the show premiered in June 2012, it exploded. By August, it was Discovery's highest-rated series. Fans loved the contrast. The loud salesman, Aaron, the quiet builder. What viewers never saw was what happened after the cameras shut off. Richard went home. Aaron stayed, night after night, finishing the work that made the show possible. Somehow, they completed all 12 builds, something no other TV shop had pulled off. But the real cost was hidden. Aaron had crammed years of work into a few brutal months, and by the end of that first season, he already knew what Richard didn't want to admit. This pace couldn't last. And how long before the Golden Boy breaks? He never watched a single show. 5 years into Fast and Loud, Aaron Kaufman had only watched 3 episodes of the show that made him famous. The premiere and 2 episodes from the Pikes Peak special, because a friend threw a party and insisted. Out of more than 100 episodes, that was it. People kept asking why, and when he finally answered, he didn't sugarcoat it. If he watched the show and ended up hating what he saw, he knew it would make going to work miserable. He had zero control over editing, over how his words were cut together, or how his dynamic with Richard looked on screen. So he made a decision early. Focus on the builds, ignore the broadcast. As long as he never saw the finished product, he could keep showing up and doing the work without second-guessing how he was portrayed. But that explanation only scratched the surface. Aaron wasn't a TV personality who fell into cars. He was a self-taught builder who learned by tearing things apart and putting them back together. No formal training, no automotive school, just years of curiosity and trial and error in Fort Worth garages. By 16, he already owned a heavily modified Jeep Cherokee and was known as the guy who could fix things other people gave up on. His first real paycheck in the industry came from a Dallas shop called 4 Wheel Parts. It wasn't glamorous, but it's where everything changed. In 2004, Richard Rawlings walked into that shop looking for help with one of his cars. He watched Aaron work for about 20 minutes. The way Aaron moved around an engine, calm, focused, almost surgical, stood out immediately. Richard offered him a job right there. Back then, Gas Monkey Garage was barely more than a side hustle, while Richard sold home healthcare equipment. The shop was small, inconsistent, and far from profitable. Aaron started as a junior mechanic, but within a few years, he was running the day-to-day builds while Richard chased deals, marketing, and big ideas. Before television ever entered the picture, they spent long stretches on the road together, hauling cars to shows across the country. The routine was always the same. Richard drove until late morning, then cracked open a beer and handed the wheel to Aaron, who drove through the night. Richard later described those trips as some of the best moments of his life. Long conversations, big dreams, endless miles. Aaron rarely mentioned them at all, which hinted at how differently each man viewed the relationship. When Discovery finally called, it came after years of failed pitches from Richard. One executive, Craig Kaufman, saw a rough sizzle reel and took a gamble even though most of the network expected the show to flop. Instead, Fast and Loud exploded, helping kick off a wave of car build reality shows. The tension between a loud dealmaker and a quiet builder felt raw and real, and viewers couldn't look away. Years later, Richard made a comment that surprised a lot of fans. He said Aaron had never been his friend, only his employee. From age 20 to 34, Aaron's connection to Richard existed almost entirely inside the garage. But if they weren't friends, why did Aaron stay so long? And what finally pushed him past the breaking point? They tried to own him and his beard. Around 2014, a few seasons into Fast and Loud, Aaron decided he wanted to shave his beard. So he mentioned it to the producers ahead of time, expecting a quick conversation and maybe a laugh. Instead, they told him no. Not, "We'd rather you didn't." Not, "Can we talk about it?" Just a flat, firm no. He couldn't shave it. Aaron paused, thinking they had to be joking. They weren't. They were completely serious about controlling something as basic as his own face. Aaron explained his stance in a calm, matter-of-fact way. He said he didn't react well to being told he couldn't do something. If they wanted him to keep the beard for the show, all they had to do was ask. But if they insisted on telling him no, he'd walk straight to the nearest drugstore, buy a razor, and shave it on camera while everyone watched. That was the deal. The producers quickly changed their tone and asked nicely, and Aaron agreed to keep it. Still, something shifted for him that day. The beard wasn't just facial hair anymore, it was branding. The bearded wonder belonged to the show, and Aaron Kaufman, the person, started to feel like an afterthought. As the seasons went on, the creative limits tightened. Back in 2013, Aaron built a 1963 Ford Falcon for the Pikes Peak hill climb, loaded with twin turbos and heavy custom fabrication. It took months, cost serious money, and pushed him creatively. Exactly the kind of work that made him feel alive as a builder. But after that, the network changed direction. Future projects had to be smaller, faster, and cheaper. He tried to fight for bigger ideas. At one point, he pitched an EcoBoost-powered De Tomaso Pantera, a complex build that would have required at least 12 weeks of heavy fabrication and custom engineering. The producers rejected it almost immediately. Too expensive, too slow, not made for television. After a while, every ambitious plan he brought forward met the same fate. For someone known as one of the strongest builders in the shop, maybe in the entire state, it started to feel like wasted potential. Richard, meanwhile, thrived on the chaos. Tight deadlines, risky deals, and last-minute flips. That was his comfort zone. The faster things moved, the more energized he seemed. Aaron was heading in the opposite direction, craving time, precision, and meaningful craftsmanship. They were stuck working side by side while pulling toward completely different goals, and the tension grew harder to ignore. By 2016, Aaron stopped pitching new ideas altogether. He showed up, built what he was told, and played his part on camera. The excitement that once drove him was fading. Early interviews showed genuine enthusiasm. Later ones revealed a man just trying to get through another shoot day. Scott McMillan watched the change happen up close and later said that while people respected Richard's business instincts, very few actually enjoyed working with him. And by then, everyone could feel the strain inside the garage. Did Aaron still have it in him to stay, or will he risk it all? Fork in the road. Late in 2016, Aaron sat alone in his truck in the Gas Monkey parking lot. Engine off, lights out. The shop sat quietly in front of him, and for once, the cameras were gone. He had just finished another 16-hour day, and he already knew tomorrow would look the same. Long hours, tight deadlines, non-stop pressure. He stared through the windshield, waiting to feel something. Pride, excitement, even frustration. Nothing came, just emptiness. That silence inside his chest told him more than any argument ever could. Instead of making a big announcement, Aaron started moving quietly. He called old friends in the industry and asked about available shop spaces around Dallas. Late at night, when sleep wouldn't come, he sketched business ideas and researched equipment suppliers. He didn't want another TV deal or a flashy brand. He wanted control over his time, his builds, and his future. The concept that kept coming back to him was simple. Focus on classic Ford F-100 trucks from the late 50s through the late 70s. He loved those trucks because they were honest machines, simple to work on, reliable, and largely ignored by big aftermarket companies. He saw both a personal passion and a business opportunity, a chance to fill a gap while finally building projects that mattered to him. But leaving wasn't as easy as walking away. His contract with Discovery controlled his schedule and even his public image. When he first asked to leave Fast and Loud, the answer was immediate: no. The network wanted him to stay and offered more money, hoping that would fix things. It didn't. When they asked what he really wanted, Aaron gave a simple answer: freedom, nothing else. No bonus, no special treatment, just the ability to move on and build his own path. Negotiations stretched on for months. During that time, Richard learned about Aaron's plans through producers, rather than directly from him. He wasn't thrilled, but he wasn't shocked either. Later, Richard admitted he knew Aaron had been unhappy for years. The tension worked both ways. Aaron's frustration affected Richard, and Richard's pressure fed Aaron's burnout. They were stuck in a cycle neither one could fix. Two people trying to hold together a partnership that had already started to fall apart. In early 2017, Aaron finally gave official notice. Soon after, Richard posted a statement on the Gas Monkey website saying the departure came out of left field and wasn't his decision, adding that the shop would keep running without missing a beat. Aaron chose not to respond publicly, but in later interviews, he explained the real reason. He wanted to build big, complex cars that required time and precision, while television demanded quick, inexpensive flips. Add in years of personal tension and professional differences, and he reached a point where staying meant losing himself. Aaron's final episode aired in March 2017. Fans felt the shift immediately. The dynamic that defined Fast and Loud was gone, and although the show continued for a few more seasons, it never fully regained its momentum. Discovery eventually canceled it quietly in 2020. By then, Aaron had already moved on, closing that chapter the moment he walked out of the garage and chose a different future. But could Aaron actually pull it off without Richard's machine behind him? Arclight rises. He did because, in late 2017, he opened Arclight Fabrication in Dallas. The shop was small, the crew was hand-picked, and for the first time in years, no cameras were watching every move he made. There were no artificial TV deadlines, no producer notes, no one standing over his shoulder pushing for faster builds. On paper, it sounded like total freedom. In reality, the first few months nearly broke him, not because of the work in the shop, but because of everything happening outside of it. Suddenly, he was dealing with payroll, vendor contracts, invoices, and cash flow. Instead of building cars all day, he found himself buried in spreadsheets and phone calls, handling problems he'd never wanted to think about before. He later admitted that becoming the boss was harder than anything he faced on television. At Gas Monkey, he focused on fabrication while someone else worried about the business. Now every decision landed on his desk. Hiring, inventory, marketing, digital content, even small details like tool maintenance and supply orders, nothing moved unless he handled it. The pressure wore him down fast. His relationship with his girlfriend felt the strain. His dogs barely saw him, and employees noticed how tense he became during those early months. He knew he wasn't at his best, but he also understood the trade-off. If he wanted real independence, he had to learn how to run a company, not just build cars. Arclight's mission was ambitious from day one. Aaron focused on classic Ford F-100 trucks and aimed to create a complete parts ecosystem. The goal was simple: make it possible for someone with limited experience to order everything needed to build a full truck, all from one place. Then Discovery came calling again. Craig Kaufman, the same executive who helped launch Fast and Loud, flew to Dallas and sat down with Aaron for a long dinner that stretched late into the night. At first, Aaron said no. He wasn't interested in repeating the same experience. But Kaufman kept pushing for a new concept built around Aaron's vision instead of network shortcuts. Eventually, they found common ground. That led to shifting gears in 2018, a very different kind of show. Each build stretched across multiple episodes. Aaron chose the projects, controlled the pace, and had final say on the creative direction. The first build was a brutal off-road monster truck designed for King of the Hammers, exactly the kind of complex project networks once told him was too risky for television. Fans and critics appreciated the deeper focus and slower storytelling, even though the ratings never matched the massive numbers of his old show. After 2 seasons, Discovery moved on. Aaron didn't see it as a loss. He'd proven he could do television on his own terms, build what he cared about, and grow a business that reflected who he really was, not just the character people once saw on screen. Aaron found success, but did leaving Gas Monkey mean leaving Richard behind forever? Or could these two ever find common ground again? Where they stand now. People still ask whether Aaron Kaufman and Richard Rawlings are friends. The honest answer sits somewhere in the middle. They don't hate each other, but they aren't close either. Aaron once said they just don't have much of a rapport anymore. After years of working side by side, their relationship settled into an awkward space. Part former business partners, part strangers who shared an intense chapter of life. Richard moved on quickly after Aaron left and told reporters that Gas Monkey was stronger than ever. He described the shop as calmer and said life felt easier without constant tension. Those comments stung some fans, but they also revealed a deeper truth. Richard thrived in the fast, chaotic environment that drained Aaron. Their differences weren't personal attacks. They were opposite personalities pulling in opposite directions. Aaron handled the split quietly. In interviews, he avoided blame and rarely criticized Richard directly. Instead, he explained that they saw the world differently. Richard enjoyed the spotlight and the energy that came with being the face of a brand. Aaron preferred the workshop, the technical challenges, and the satisfaction of building something slowly and correctly. Neither approach was wrong, just incompatible over the long term. Looking back, both men benefited from the partnership when it mattered most. Richard needed Aaron's skill to make Gas Monkey stand out and attract television audiences. Aaron needed Richard's business instincts and platform to launch his career. What people assumed was a deep friendship was really a professional alliance built around shared goals. When those goals changed, the partnership naturally came to an end. Today, Aaron divides his time between Arclight fabrication and racing. In 2022, he returned to Pikes Peak with a 1949 Ford F1 called Old Smoky, finally competing in an event he'd spent years preparing others for. He works with brands like MagnaFlow and collaborates with shops that value craftsmanship over speed. Most importantly, he chooses his own projects. If a customer brings him a long-term build with room for creativity, he takes it, no TV deadlines attached. Fans still recognize him at car shows and ask about Fast and Loud, and he talks about it openly. The show changed his life, even if it pushed him to his limit, and he accepts both sides of that story while quietly working toward whatever comes next. Do you think Richard Rawlings genuinely cared about Aaron as a person, or was their entire relationship just business from the start? Was Aaron looking for freedom, or did he want his own money? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.